Hi, I'm your host Kelly Bowen, and you are listening to the Lifestyle Finance Australia show, which is dedicated to creating greater awareness about the power of leveraging finance when it comes to accelerating your growth and personal development. And we celebrate the hundreds of coaches, thought leaders, and game changers we support. This is a platform where you can meet some of the world's best experts in online business, trauma healing, digital marketing, relationship coaching, abundance and wealth creation, spiritual ascension, body healing, and wellness. So if you're looking for your next coach, healer, or mentor to take you on the next step in your journey, this is the show for you. Let's play. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to another episode of the Lifestyle Finance Show. And I have another incredible, amazing, special guest. We've been working together, for a few years now in a few different spaces. We've been in some masterminds together. I've seen this incredible woman do some incredible things and help people have massive shifts. She's got a super cool story in terms of how her own journey into how she's come here, including meeting and hanging out with the Dalai Lama. The beautiful guest that I have on the show today is Angela, I always pronounce your last name incorrectly, Hryniuk. How'd I go? Welcome to the show.
Hryniuk. Thank you.
Hryniuk, thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, for the invitation for being here. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I was so excited to get you on. So tell me, pretend I don't know what you do. So for our beautiful listeners, so they can kind of get a little bit of a background feel about you and what it is you do, pretend I know nothing and we've never met. What is it that you do and how did you get to sort of where you are now and what it is that you offer?
Okay, big question.
Yeah.
What I mainly do is I work with people in their unconscious through a modality that I have created over the last 20 years, and I have now honed it to help people unblock anything around resistances around money, relationship, any manner of indecisiveness and their personal traumas from childhood. So I work with business owners, I work with yoga teachers, yoga masters, people that are working with clients, so they themselves have already elevated on some level, and now they want more. So they've done their psychological work, and now they want to move into their unconscious. So the modality, like my own biography and the modality are kind of married together because I'm 26 years sober as an alcoholic. And so
that's incredible.
I know, 26 years ago.
Congratulations. That's over a quarter of a century making a decision and choosing it. That is no small thing. This is a woman who can make a decision and stick with it, no matter what life throws at her. I just think that's so honorable and just something to really be celebrated.
Well, it's been, it's one day at a time. Hey, sometimes it's moment to moment. And I, when I was bottoming out, I didn't have, choice was gone. I just wanted to die. That's the bottom that I hit. And I was in my early 30s. And, my bottom looked like living alone in a little cabin on an island on the dark side of a mountain, up a mountain, not talking to anybody for days, traumatized from my physical and sexual abuse that was just coming forward. So I was a mess. It was more than just being a mess. I was suicidal. It was really, really dire. And I had had a really tough childhood. So it was just coming home to roost. I was using alcohol to help me cope with life. And once I sobered up, that's when the real fun started, right? That's when I really got some traction. And this is in the days when, transformational industry, there wasn't any such thing. I was a Buddhist at that time. I was already into Buddhism quite a few years by the time I sobered up. I think it was 7 years. So I thought Buddhism was going to help me with my alcoholism. And, I think it brought me to my bottom quicker, but it wasn't Buddhism that was going to heal me. So I sobered up, and that's when the lights started to come on, the whole of my childhood, all that I had been pushing down, all my resentments, everything came to the surface. So I started having to work with healers, therapists, deeper levels of meditation. And that's where this modality that I now share with others comes from. So the modality that I've created has been gifted to me, like I'm a guardian of it, really. And it comes from psychotherapy, it comes from hypnotherapy, it comes from my Buddhism, it comes from the quantum, right? So I've pulled all this together. And the great fortune I've had, last year, we did our first scientific clinical trial.
How cool.
Yeah.
And what happened?
So cool. Well, the results were amazing. I mean, scientists said that they were significant results. So, you know, like I've been doing the modality for 20 years. I've been teaching it. I've been seeing people really transform from it, but it's all anecdotal. And I got kind of tired of like I know it works. My students and clients know it works, but I want the world to know. So, you know, I met a scientist who said, well, let's do a trial. And I was like, oh, well, you know, like that's, so anyway, I got helped to do that. And we had a cohort of 30 people. So it was just a preliminary fact-finding mission. And it was a 12-week process where we followed people for 3 months and we gave them the same questions at the beginning, at the 6-week mark, 12-week mark, and actually the 24-week mark to see how their behaviors had changed around addiction and codependence.
Wow, I'd be really curious to know, if you're open to sharing, what were those questions that we're using as benchmarks to measure the behavioral change?
Some of the stuff was like, you know, how, and it's on a scale of 1 to 6, like you strongly agree or you strongly disagree, and everything in between. Something like, you know, do you have trouble making decisions? Do you have a challenge receiving compliments easily? Do you get into relationships where you find that you're giving more than the other person? Do you get into painful relationships? So it all has to do with our worthiness, how much we value ourselves, how much we're able to be seen in the world, right? And all of these things have to do with how prosperous we are also. Like, I want to wind that back because I want to let your listeners know that I was also for 18 years working in the finance industry as an accountant, as a tax preparer.
I didn't think I knew this about you.
I don't know if you did either.
No, this is cool. Tell us more.
Yeah. So when I sobered up, I'll backtrack a minute. So in my 20s, me and my partner at the time, we were making 6 figures, and this was in the 90s. So this was huge. You know, it's huge. And we were like, you know, 22, 23, and we needed an accountant. We needed an accountant, this great accountant. And the accountant said to me, Angela, you know, you've got this incredible mind. I was a writer. I am a writer as well. And he said, you've got this mind for numbers, but also you're a poet. And if you ever want a job here, you know, you've got one. And I'm like, oh, Gary, like, I'm a writer. I'm not going to come work for you. Right. Well, you know, pride goeth before the fall. So there I was sobering up. I had no life skills. And I phoned Gary and I said, hey, look, I need some help. I need some work. Can you train me? Whatever you need, I'll help you. And so the first couple of years were a bit rock and roll, and I was just tallying receipts, you know, just those old ticker tape receipts for people who were to pay taxes. But he slowly taught me how to prepare tax files, how to help people with their, you know, in the investment accounts. So like it was A to Z, and within 3-4 years, clients were coming to me, friends were coming to me. And I said, Gary, are you cool if I have my own business? And he's like, yeah, totally. Use me as your backstop, you know?
What an awesome guy.
18 years, I had a practice. I helped people build their businesses through spiritual principles, you know? Like I crunched the numbers, but they did the spiritual work. Like if they had you know, overdue, or they owed interest and penalties for taxes that were, you know, 3 years overdue, I'd say to them, your job is to keep the tax agent in the light for their family, their friends, hold them with love, even though you owe $20,000, and I'll do the bit over here. And we would see miracles. We would get, you know, huge amounts of interest and penalties waived, right? Because you know, God is good. The divine is there. It cuts through red tape. And I would tell the truth. I mean, a lot of people were coming from recovery stories, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, in 2014, you know, the story is long and windy road. In 2007, I I came to Australia. So I'm Canadian originally, and I came to Australia. And I was going back and forth between the countries to do work in both countries. And in 2014, I said, I've had enough. I'm done. I don't want to do any more taxes. I want to focus on my spiritual business, my transformational business.
Mhm.
So that was another very big turning point. So in 2014, well, it was more like, I sold that business and I had already started. And so from that time to this, it's been full on 100% in my, transformational business. And
Wow.
today I have a team of people. I've trained wisdom coaches in the modality, and they themselves have businesses. And so, it's sort of like a generational thing, not age-wise, but, they learn the modality. I teach it to them, they learn it, they give it to their clients, they come back to me for help, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
Yeah.
What an incredible journey. Talk to me a little bit about like what the ATTM method is.
Cool.
Because it sounds really sexy and I can feel all the flavors of it from along these like different pathways that you've been through this journey, how it's come together. Like, I'm really curious. Tell me a little bit about what it is and how it's applied.
Yeah. So as I said, Buddhism, psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, and working in the quantum. It began, I'll say that I created it in, I would say the first Genesis, 1988, when I was doing my healing from my sexual abuse. And we did some inner child work, bringing our child onto our lap, talking to her, etc. That was the first inkling of, oh, okay, then I can externalize some of my feelings in, I can outside of myself. Then I started working. I mean, I've been a Tibetan Buddhist using visualization for, 33 years now. And the visualization always puts in front of you, I mean, I now would call it in the quantum light codes, but people or energies that are, how would you say, enlightened? They're enlightened energies to help us through, and we embody them. So I was gathering together all these parts, and I was doing hypnotherapy at the time as well, and obviously psychotherapy. So the ATTM is a series of steps of taking a client or a person sequentially through the tonality of my voice, because my voice gets very low, and we go down and down, and we move into the unconscious slowly, slowly, slowly. And as we move into the unconscious, down a set of stairs, and then through a gate, and then we meet these energies, then we start talking, and we start talking to the energies in the form of a little girl or a little boy. And they might come up in multiple ages, whatever shows up. It might come up just as a feeling or a color. And then from there, I take the person through to possibly old memories, and we then change the ending of the story.
Yeah, that's
so
powerful.
that we can change the past. And people are like, how can we change the past? We change the energy of the past, because, in the quantum, we know past, present, future is all at the same time.
Yeah.
What we can't change is the visual.
Yeah.
We can't, like if you got slapped across the face, that'll remain in your psyche. But what we do alchemize is the energy of getting slapped in the face.
Yeah.
Right. And we can withdraw that and say, okay, I want to change the ending of that story. The person who slapped me actually comes forward and kisses me. Or the person who comes forward and I yell at them like a dragon, and fire comes out my mouth, and they are blown away. Right. So it gives the person their power back. Yeah. And we do that with mother, we do that with father, we do that with significant people like coaches or priests or teachers or siblings that have hurt us, and this method, like we're completely, and people kind of go, well, how come I can open my eyes and then still go back down there? And I say, because all the dimensions of reality exist simultaneously.
Yeah,
so
stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, you open your eyes and you're third. You close your eyes and you can move into the fifth, sixth, seventh. You can move into source energy. And so this modality takes somebody into, And I used to think it was fifth, sixth dimension, but it's actually source energy, I've been told. And source energy is where all possibility is, where anything can happen. And that's why we can change it. And therefore change us on the third, fourth, fifth dimension. So, I mean, I've now, I mean, because I've been using it for a long, long time on myself, but I also use it with couples. I use it for businesses because it also correlates to stages of early childhood development.
Oh,
So
100%.
Right, whatever age the child shows up at within the psyche, like in the modality, I then say, okay, you're 4 years old, that correlates to the phase of childhood that's about identity. Oh, you're struggling with being 4 to 7. I bet you're struggling in your business with being empowered, because a child wants, like needs empowerment they learns about being powerful between the ages of 4 and 7. Oh, I'm feeling like I don't belong. I don't have any peers. I bet you were wounded between the ages of 10 and 13, because that's when peer development happens. That's when we feel like we belong. You see, so it's the modality plus, it's the modality with more information about early childhood, and then we can apply antidotes, and reparent ourselves.
Oh, this is
So
sexy.
that's sort of like the top layer. That's what kind of brings people in. And then the beauty of watching the transformation, because all my Buddhism comes forward, and all the root delusions and so that, pull from all kinds of places.
Oh, this is so sexy. I really love it because there's when you were talking about like how you were still in you had been in Buddhism for some time, or you still had the addiction, then coming out of the coming out of the addiction. I wrote down like the link between addiction to spirituality that I want to talk about. And I love here how like this is the deep change work. This like what you've just shared, this is the doing the work. This is the going back and reclaiming our quantum children that have been trapped in the past. Like when we're looking at the unconscious, like it is the everything and the nothing. It is past, present, future. And it's like these trapped energies or these trapped aspects of ourselves that we're going back and reclaiming and integrating with the now, because it's the law of correspondence, as above so below, as within so without. And until we integrate these pieces and come into the unity consciousness, we're going to keep manifesting it into our physical reality, because the physical reality is what shows the disharmony. And it's also interesting, like this journey too, this is us shifting into the oneness consciousness, into fifth dimensional consciousness, which is what we're evolving into. So I could just feel the juiciness and the love for this modality, and I could feel the different layers. And I'd love to know your perspective on the relationship between addiction to spirituality, and also like how it can be used for bypassing, and what your experience has been with that. What do you think it is that people that do have some addictive things will turn to spirituality as sort of like the beginning part of the journey, and like how to ground out of that?
Well, because we know there's something missing in us, and we don't know what it is. Like, I'll take myself as a case in point. Like, I knew that there was something wrong with me. Like it was like I was suffering. I mean, we suffer, I had a relationship breakup, and, so you notice the suffering. The first point is not, okay, I better go to a therapist. Sometimes people do that, but usually it's more so like that quiet, small voice inside of us that told us as children that we were amazing and we were here to do amazing things on earth. Like we kind of lose contact with that voice. And in the suffering, it's like, where did that voice go? Which is our spirit, which is our consciousness, which is not our thoughts. That is spirit. And so I believe people turn to spiritual groups or spiritual healing instead of the psychological healing, which is necessary. I mean, it's both necessary. But they turn to the spirit life because that's the first call. That's the first calling. Like they can hear their spirit being called to ascend, to heal, to knit back together, to integrate into their body. And then they start doing that work. and they start coming back into their body. And that's where the real owie is.
Yeah.
Usually as children, we left our bodies when there was pain, right? Like we escaped our bodies because we have strong spirits, and the spirit and consciousness can leave the body and come back in, right? So we start bringing the spirit back into our body, more than 20% of the time, into 30%, 50%, 90%, and all the caca, I call it, comes forward, right? All the shadow stuff and past life stuff and lineage. So it's not just about me today or you today. Those of us who have done such long work, like, I can't tell you how many hours. Well, I can tell you 40,000. I've sat 40,000 hours on a meditation cushion.
Wow.
Like tens of thousands in the woods by myself, unraveling the beliefs and patterns in my mind. And, like, it's not just this lifetime that I'm cleaning up. So I say, take heart for those people who have spent long years in this work. Say, well, you're cleaning it up, not just for yourself. You're cleaning up for your mother, your grandmother's generation, going back 7 and forwards. So it's, well, and the role of addictions, because you asked that question. Those of us who are addicts, I think, have a predisposition to bigger spirit. Okay. So we come in with a more finely tuned nervous system, right? We've got a different kind of brain, like not different, so like not totally different from a human brain, but it's more sensitive. The nervous system is more sensitive, and society is not a very sensitive place. It's a very brutal, harsh place. So we turn to substances and behaviors and people to calm the nervous system down. And so we don't have to feel those wounds.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't work.
No, it makes it worse.
Well, for a while it works.
Oh, for a while it's very effective.
It's very effective. And that's the problem, and then it starts not working.
Yeah.
Right. Then it starts not working. And then you have to take the substance. I say it's a substance, a person, or a behavior, like workaholism. That's an addiction. Codependence, person. Could be codependent with your dog or your employer or your sister, right? And substances, money, sex, food, alcohol, drugs. It's all lethal in the end. It really is.
It's crazy. Like, codependency is such a huge thing across the planet. Even in romantic movies, they're making romance and love, and they're glorifying it and it's codependency. What we're being imprinted upon and what we're being trained into, what romantic love is, and like passion and grand gestures, it's anxious, codependent behavior.
Precisely.
And even like little things, it's just so interesting, like the coding around this, like the little boy who's mean to the girl at school, and the parent that says, don't worry, it just means that he likes you. So then what happens is the little girl grows up into being, anytime a guy is mean to her or is avoidant, brings in the anxious attachment and the codependency. Or somebody that's like, I always joke and laugh and call it the hectic lesbian, that meets somebody and then wants to see them every day that week, and then 2 weeks later they're almost like living together, moving in kind of thing, like the U-Haul scenario. And there's like, oh, but there was just this connection, but like, no, it's codependency.
Well, it's like chemicals driving your life.
Yeah.
Right. All the neuropeptides and all the neurology that's going, like all the lights are going on. That's just patterning. Yeah. It's like, and you have to stop the horses from going forward and say, that's not healthy. Like in recovery, we often say, if you want to cross the room and like you feel like you've met your mate across the room, turn around and run. Like run. Because all you're going to do is meet your match in your dysfunction. Right. And it's all that work that we have to put in to sort of say, actually, I want peace. I want calmness in my partnership. I don't want all that frenetic, craziness, which codependence brings.
It's fun and intoxicating until it's not. It's like any addiction. It's fun and intoxicating until it's not.
And then people are kind of left like, oh, well, we don't match anymore. And then they split up. And it's like, oh, no, there's much, much, much more to it all. Much more. So, yeah. And I mean, this modality helps people come to understand how they first got imprinted in that stuff, with an absent mother, an absent father, energetically. I always say to people, addictions are born between the ages of 0 to 18 months. Okay. That's when we become our addicts. And we cannot cure our addictions through talk therapy because we didn't create the addiction through verbalization. We didn't have words back then. So anything to help us that's nonverbal to heal the whole and soul. So the reason, so addiction is 0 to 18 months, you got a little tiny baby and you've got a mother. And you know that in those 18 months, there's attachment and bonding. Now, if the attachment and bonding isn't sufficient for the child, we know what happens, right? We get rejection issues, deep attachment issues, abandonment issues. Those are the big, heavy ones. And there's many, many, many reasons why a woman can't be there with the child. Many. Right. It has to go back to work. There's a war going on. They're moving house. There's a divorce, like
economical, all sorts of things.
All kinds of things. So it's not like a blame game. Yeah. It's not a blame game to the mother. Like, oh, you didn't do good. However, the child needs what the child needs. And they need that attachment. And if they don't get the emotional being seen, being heard, being touched by the mother, it is the mother in those first 18 months. Then the child develops compensatory strategies to alleviate the panic in the nervous system. Okay. So it's like way back when this begins. And the first addiction, well, not addiction, I don't want to call it that. The first issue often for addicts is food,
Oh, yes.
And because mom also is the one that teaches us or feeds us. And so we learn about control. We spit out our food. We play with our food. We reject our food. Or we want our mother's attention, so we keep eating food. So the wires start getting built that food is love, as opposed to food is sustenance, or food is control. I'm going to control you with food, how much attention I'm going to give you, etc. So the child learns this. And then they go on to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. But the foundation has been created, So case in point, like me and my brother, same parents. However, my brother had my mother's full attention for the first 12 months of his life. First 14 months. I came along at 14 months. My mother went back to work when I was 6 months old. Okay. So my brother got the full complement of 18 months with her. He got a little bit less because I arrived. So when you hear about the Irish twins, two kids within 14 months or 12 months, there's going to be addiction issues. There's going to be compulsive behaviors. Right.
I didn't know this. This is just me. I'm just so many pieces are going like ding, 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 ding. It's so many like different. Oh, like keep going. I'm listening.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like for me and it goes back to my Buddhism, because in Buddhism, we say that there's a cause to suffering. Like suffering exists. There's always a cause to the suffering. Suffering can cease. And there's always a path to the cessation of suffering. So these are called the Noble Truths, the Four Noble Truths. So when I'm studying Buddhism, I know, okay, everybody knows they suffer. I am so diligent about, I want to get to the cause of the suffering. What's the cause of the suffering? Let's go deeper. Oh, okay, it's childhood. Okay, but what's deeper than childhood? Okay, so mother energy. And what's deeper than that? her childhood. Okay, what's deeper than that? So I would research and go down and down and down and work with this energy. So this is the path to ceasing the suffering. And then suffering ends. Like, people don't talk about that. People think Buddhism is a kind of a downer, right? And talk about suffering. And it's like, no, they don't talk about that suffering ends. Like the patterning and the pain that I had from my addictions, the deep wanting to die, the hole in the soul that's about right here, and the wind blows through it and it's just excruciating. That can heal and that suffering ends. So it's, that's how my Buddhism kind of comes into the early childhood development and the psychotherapy and the psychotherapeutic part of the modality. And then, so there's spirit, there's psychology, and then there's the quantum, right? Then you add all that in. This beautiful, okay, past, present, and future, everything you ever thought, everything you ever did is still there energetically. And it's up to us to clean it up. You don't have to, but it's there for us. We have choice. You come to a place of choice.
It's beautiful. And life is so much better when you do. So much better. Out of curiosity, why Buddhism over any other religion for you?
Well, for me, yeah. So I was raised a Catholic and Ukrainian Catholic. So I have a really long lineage of Ukrainian heritage. And I remember as a kid, like my grandmother was my first spiritual teacher, and just noticing that as a woman or as a girl, I couldn't serve as an altar girl. Like, there was only altar boys, and the priests were only boys and men and stuff. And I kind of was pissed off about that. And when I met Buddhism, and I kind of just, I want to say I didn't choose, but obviously I did. My massage therapist was a Buddhist, and she would talk to me about her practices in meditation and female deities. And I was like, oh, tell me about these female deities and tell me about these female teachers, because there was none of that in Catholicism for me. And so she said, well, do you want to, she gave me a tape back in the days of tape recorders.
Yeah, I remember tapes, and you had to, with the pencil, to wind them back.
Exactly. So listen to this tape, because I've had all these questions. And she said, listen to this tape and come back and tell me what you think. And so I came back and she said, well, I said, I loved it. And the guy was funny and, sense of humor and very realistic. And she said, well, he's coming next week. Do you want to do a meditation retreat? And I'm like, I don't know how to meditate. Like, I'm 25 years old, right? I don't know how to meditate. I don't like, wow, what's Buddhism, right?
Yeah.
And I went along and I met him, my spiritual teacher, my first spiritual teacher, and I just cried. I just cried and cried. And my whole body went through this catharsis of, I'm home. I'm safe. I'm done. I wasn't shopping. I wasn't spiritually shopping, but there was a sense of, I'm home and I don't need to look. And so it wasn't like I was poking around and looking into Judaism or, into Islam or any of that. It was just, when I met him, I knew. And when I did my first retreat with him, I was having such weird mind experiences, like I had done this before, and it was a lot of past life stuff was coming forward, and, for your listeners, I met the Dalai Lama very early on in the take. So I was still at probably not even 30 the first time I met him. And I met him continuously, like I've been in his presence and I've done private retreat with him and worked with him, for days on end. So it's not just a matter of I've met him. And one can only surmise that one's karma and past life had something to do with Buddhism, because you don't get that close to somebody like that so quickly. If
goosebumps.
So both in India and America and Canada and here in Australia, so all four, like all the different continents, we would be together or work together or, be doing retreat or whatever. So this is the inexplainable stuff. This is the stuff that's beyond rational thinking. Like, why Buddhism? I don't know. It's probably because I was a Buddhist in my last lifetime, and I've probably been a Buddhist many lifetimes, and so be it. And so it is this lifetime, and I'm a teacher of it now. Like I embody it and I teach it and pass it along.
Yeah,
So.
and you do have a beautiful omnipresence about you, like just being in your presence, the melody of your voice. There is this beautiful, calming, all is well in the world, and I am safe. And it is all, every time I'm in your presence, I always feel it. It's just like this, all of the noise disappears, and it's just like straight into presence with you.
Yeah, thank
you. I feel the hours that you've done on cultivating that, to emanate that field, to bring those that are also sharing the field with you into that space. Like, that's thousands of hours, as you've said, of practice to be able to command a field of that power to bring people into that level of presence, not just hold your own.
Yeah. And I mean, it's called practice, right?
Yeah,
like
for a reason.
It's called a spiritual practice, just like, this as a past athlete. I was a past athlete. I was an elite athlete as well. So you put in the hours. It's, it's that, what's the guy's name? Malcolm Gladwell. You got to put in the first 10,000 hours. That's your initiation.
That's your minimum.
That's your minimum. And then after that, then you can start beginning to say that you know something, right? And this loops back a bit into business development, like people who start businesses and think that within a year or two, they're going to, be making their millions. It's like, you got to put in the hours, and you got to learn your own mind, and you got to learn how you groove and how you work. And, business is about mind training, really.
Yeah, it is. And what do you think, like, because this is something that we were talking about before we jumped on this episode, in terms of when you're constantly this deep in the work and you're doing this level of, there's this level of self-awareness, self-exploration, and really being committed to the spiritual path and a mission here on earth, and having a business, a team, like an empire of light. How do you go with you managing team as you grow and shift, and your consciousness doesn't just it's not like a steady ride, like it's rapidly ascending? How do you go with this?
Well, it is a challenge. I'm not going to say it's easy. The best thing though is that usually the people that are around or that I'm training in are also on their ascension. And every once in a while, there, because we have free will, some of our team members may not choose to ascend. They may choose to move into their addiction or move into their codependency to take care of their pain and their suffering, right? And, on a personal level, I like the time for my spiritual practice, I have to carve out, and it's sacred. And if I'm not right with my divine energies, then nothing is going to work. So in the, in past incarnations of businesses, if my alignment wasn't on, and therefore things would get a little wobbly within the team. And if something's wobbly with the team, then we know then the business is going to be wobbly, right? And so it always, for me, comes back to my alignment and how deeply connected I am to my guides, my guardians, that inner voice that's always, I've trusted and always sets me right. Now, in terms of team, people's alignment may get shaky, right? Their commitment may not be as much. And this is what you're referring to, we were talking about before coming on, is that sometimes we have to let team members go. Sometimes we have to let the divine take care of some of our business.
Yes.
We say in recovery, sometimes God will do for us what we can't do for ourselves. Right? And we just relinquish knowing what to do. And lo and behold, something will happen and that employee will quit. because, they whatever, like, oh, all of a sudden they've got to move countries or provinces or states or whatever. And so it's like, oh, my problem's solved. Other times, and I'm experiencing this a little bit, is that, I'm wanting to call in higher level clients, and my team, some of my team members aren't even at the level of the next level client that I want to call in. So I have been advised to upgrade my team and give them choice. Do you want to continue ascending with me, which means you're going to have to upgrade and do some work? Or there's no, there's no sort of like edict, you can leave. Like, I love you, I bless you, I release you. And no hard feelings. So it's kind of like, it's real life. It's very real when you're upgrading as a business owner and some of your team is just not there.
Yeah, it's full on. I've literally just been through like a similar thing. Like I was kind of getting the feeling about one of my team members that something was off. Like I could feel an energetic like pull, that like there was an anchor, an unnecessary anchor on the business. And I was like, and I was kind of like ignoring my guidance around, and I'd made space to actually do something about it and spend some time with it. And the next thing I know, there's something divinely orchestrated where it's happened, where I have to let go of this team member. It's not even like choice taken right out of my hands, has to happen. I was like, all right, universe, heard you, thank you. And yet, even though sometimes when this happens, it does spiral you into, well, now you've got to step in and do all of the things. Yet, even though it might not feel the highest timeline at the time, it is the most highest timeline, because, that where that ends, it's kind of like that person can only take responsibility for it. And also at the same time, so that happened within 2 weeks. I had somebody literally slide into my DMs saying, hey, I heard you're looking for a new broker. And I've literally been putting out into the universe a female version of myself, somebody who has finance experience and comes from the coaching world. Slid into my DMs, starts Monday. So it's just the irony of like when you kind of get out of the way and you let your ego take the back seat with it, and you trust, like when you're doing the work, that these things are divinely orchestrated. What comes in is magic. Yet it can also be terrifying, feel like you're on a roller coaster, fine print.
Of course, but that's where the spiritual growth comes in, around trust and faith and surrender. And for me, I think the best business owners and the best, like the Bransons of the world, they surrender. They know what it means to let go of the reins and give the power to others, and when to step up, right? And when to say what they need to say. And it's that fine discernment. Okay, when do I let go and let the universe take over? And when do I step forward and step up and, move this along without pushing? Because, this comes to the question about masculine and feminine energy, masculine and feminine business styles. Because a lot of women are still running businesses from a masculine business style. And slowly, the universe, the global financial crisis was the first indicator in 2008. It's right. Right. So, we've been getting messages for 15 years that we must change our business practices, right? To be softer, gentler, not coercive, not from fear and not from control, but from radiant, being radiant and loving, being okay to let go. Like these are all feminine principles, and men have to learn them. Just like women have to learn them, because we've been in a patriarchal, system for so long. And we just thought, oh, the only one way to do business. No, not true. Yeah. Many ways,
so many ways, and way more integrated and sustainable. There's like, and even you watch movies about business over time, like you can see like in the 80s where it was all like succeed at all costs. Doesn't matter at what expense. It was full on. And then now, moving, like shifting, and you can watch how the movies are changing. Now it's about developing staff and helping staff and supporting staff. Like the whole thing has shifted so much.
Well, we've gone from a me to a we, right? Because me is very lonely. Me gets you far fast, but it's not very gratifying. Whereas the we proposition, it may take a little longer, but oh my goodness, it's way more joyful, way more rich, right? It's more sustainable. It's just more sustainable.
So
I
much
used
more
to
sustainable.
I used to think, you know, you just said, I want to clone myself and I want a person. And I used to think, oh no, there's no way I could ever be cloned or, you know, da, 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 da. And somebody just said, get over yourself. Like, you know, you've got the skills, just teach the skills. No, nobody can be you, but you can teach the skills. That's when the light bulb went on for me around this method. Like, let me teach this method and let others go into the world with it.
Yeah. And
So,
that's the legacy, right?
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's magic. So I also want to ask a little bit, because we've been working together for a while. And I always like asking this question and hearing everybody else's experience of this journey, because it's really quite powerful. And so we've been working together for a little while. Can you talk to me a little bit about what it's made available for you, being able to offer finance to your clients, for them to be able to say yes to work with you and go through some of these incredible transformational processes with you, and the difference it's made in your business, being able to have that cash flow and reinvest in your team and growth, and what it is that you're sharing with the world and the impact you're creating?
Yeah. So I think we started to work together in 2018, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah. We're
And
relatively new to doing finance with coaching programs.
yeah. And at the time I was delivering like 10-month programs and also pilgrimages to India.
I remember.
And
I totally remember.
yeah. So that's when the financing came into play. And people were wanting to do both. They wanted to do my 10-month program and they wanted to do India, right? And so they were looking at what, 20 grand. I don't remember in those days the numbers exactly, but it so facilitated their ability to grow. Having finance, having somebody to say, okay, we're going to make your cash payments doable within your lifestyle so that you can continue working with Ange, you can go to India and move things forward. And the growth in those people that I saw, I'm speaking to the converted with you, that finance and going to debt, certain kind of debt, is maturing.
Yeah.
For a person, it is a good thing, right? It is like you trust yourself now to move to your next level. And that's what I was seeing with these folks, because they trusted me. And if I'm telling them, hey, you know what, you can finance this and have your cake and eat it too, so to speak, you're not going to suffer. Like, where am I going to get that $1,000 a month? Oh my God. And I was like, whoa. Like, let's just dial it down. Let's do it over a longer period of time. Oh, can I do that? Yes, we can do whatever we want. I mean, people's minds are so limited, Can we? It's like, you could do whatever, So that facilitated for me, that cash influx, and then further growth, being able for me to offer more programs to more people, because I could hire more staff, I could deliver more, and I didn't have to do it all. Like, I think for me, that was the first taste of my true freedom, to have a team in supporting me and my vision. And they were taking it forward, which is very liberating. It's yeah, to the point now where, I mean, it's been kind of weird after COVID, to be honest. It's been a lot of higgledy-piggledy. And my learnings have been profound around where you live and letting go of possessions. And I now live in Costa Rica, right? Like, that's the latest. I was 15 years in Australia, and this year we traversed over here, and to now have like a seriously global picture going on, working with Americans, working with Australians, working with Canadians. And, it's like, so using the finance to, again, continue putting in a stake in other countries now. Right. So it's that's how it's helping me, is grow my business and to impact people. It's not just me. It's like, I'll just tell you one little story. Like, this woman, I just met her in a mastermind. I didn't notice her because she didn't have a camera on ever. right? She never had her camera on. And so, I just saw the little tile. And then I get a call from her and she says, or an email, and she says, I've got some messages from your guides coming through it and they want to tell you something. And I'm like, cool. Like I live in that world,
Yeah.
cool.
Let's go.
So we get on the phone and her presence, like her talking with me, she's realizing, oh my God, I'm not just talking to somebody who's from down the street. I'm talking to a woman who ... She's got a global business. She's a this, she's a that. And she could feel that on the phone. And that conversation wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had financing for my people give me the money up front to help me move countries. Because she's American, this young woman. All right. And now she's become a client.
Yeah. Wow.
So it like from get-go, it's interdependence. I mean, that's in Buddhism, that's everything. Everything is interdependent.
Yeah, the connected web. It's like all the symbiotic relationships that all support each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's not about money. I mean, it is, but money is energy, right? So it's all about energy. It's all about, like that interconnectedness and the flow.
Yeah, I love that story. And was there anything like to implement it? Because I do see some businesses struggle a little bit with like trusting it to move out of their in-house payment plan into I'm either paid in full or through finance. Was there anything in there that you needed to embrace to implement this? Because you implemented this really well from the get-go.
No, to be honest, there was no friction.
Yeah, I noticed.
I think when you're ready, heart, mind, soul, everything's in alignment. It is an easy shift. I had been doing my own payment plans for so long, and it was like, oh my God, somebody else could do this. Take it off my plate. Like in the early days, Kelly, I had a little machine that every month I had my binder and I would be putting through people's payment plans on that little machine.
Oh, no
just like
way.
in a restaurant. Yes. And I would clip the receipt onto their order form, and I would label them, 1 of 12, 2 of 12, 3 of 12, and I had like 100. I know. And I had 100 clients that were on payment plans. So it was just nuts. Yeah. So was I happy when I met you? Like, thank you very much. Yes. No more of that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. I have no idea. I can just, that's a whole day sitting there. That's like 2 days worth of like 100 people. And then if one declines, then you got to chase them. Oh my gosh, what a nightmare.
It was like, and it was, I'd have to pick a day a month and just sit down and do it. And I didn't look forward to it, although the cash then came in, right? But
yeah, but the process is not fun.
No, and then all the declines, the old decline, oh, I'm gonna phone so-and-so, I'm gonna have to email her, what's that about? And then do the conversations and yada, yada. So
that's not why you got into coaching.
No.
No coach ever does. And it has been so fun chatting with you. I have loved all your stories. Every time I chat with you, it is a pleasure and a joy and an honor. And I always learn something, always. Now, if I know you've got something really special for our listeners where they can get a little bit of a taste of the ATT method and sort of like what's available if there was something in here that resonated, if they want to work with you or get in contact with you. So can you please share this incredible gift that you would like to offer to our listeners and how best we can get in contact with you?
Okay, cool. So I'd like to gift your listeners a 40-day possibility/prosperity plan. And it's 40 meditations that I've recorded based on a guy named John Randolph Price from the 20s. And it comes with a workbook and it comes with a contract to self. You have to make a contract with yourself. You have to keep a journal, and it's magic. That's all I can say. I started doing it in 1994. It was the first piece of sort of spirit money that I ever came across. And it set the foundation for me for the whole rest of my life. And I then recorded these meditations. So that's the gift to people, and they can get it you're going to have a link in your email that you'll send out.
Yes, there's on all of platforms, there's going to be a link to the 40-day prosperity plan. And there's also going to be a link to Angie's website. You will definitely be able to find this. It's going to be iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, emails, Facebook, everywhere.
Yes. And any one of your listeners, I mean, my last name is Hryniuk, and I'll spell it, and it's Hryniuk. And I always say it's like H&R Block, H, then R, Y, N, and then I, U, K. So I, then you, K. Because those are the places where people get. So AngelaHryniuk.com is the website. And I just want to make a mention that, yes, people can do a 4-week accelerator course with me. And I'm the first one, or the one that's coming up, is May 17th. So, I mean, you probably edit this part out, but we're going to do
okay. If you miss the May 17th and this comes out after the May 17th, there is going to be another one.
Precisely. So this is a 4-week intensified look at your unconscious using the ETTM and moving you through very quickly through some of your blocks, resistances, mother issues, father issues, for you to heal, for you to get on with your prosperous life, basically. So that is available, across. And again, it will, that's not on my website yet, but that probably in 6 weeks it will be.
Yeah. So if this is after the 17th of May, get your hands onto the 40-day possibility plan to get in with the next 4-week challenge, and you will definitely be well taken care of, whether it be with the 40-day possibility plan first and then the 4-week challenge, or the other way around, whichever way it comes. However, we have got you covered.
There you go. Exactly.
Well,
anything to do with spirit and money. I mean, Kelly, you are, my twin soul sister with money and spirit. So
yeah, we do. We fly across many spaces together, and it has been, like I said, an honor and a privilege. Like, it really is a privilege talking to you. There's just I get goosebumps all the time too through our conversations, which just tells me like it's spirit talking to me. Like, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm available. Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your magic with our listeners. I adore you so much. And beautiful souls, if you've loved what you heard in this episode, please share it, tag your friends, because if it's made a difference to you, I can guarantee it absolutely will to others. And I love you. Mwah.
Thank you, darling. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for doing what you do and being of service. Thank you for the work.
So welcome. Thank you for listening to the Lifestyle Finance Show. If you loved this interview, please feel free to share it, because if it made a difference to you, it will absolutely make a difference to others. And if you are a coach, healer, or mentor, and you'd like to explore getting finance set up for your business so you can get paid in full from day one and financially support your clients in a far greater capacity than just your in-house payment plan, head over to my website, www.lifestylefinanceco.com, and follow the prompts so we can explore this further. Big love, beautiful soul, and thanks for the support.